They say love finds you when you least expect it. For me, that couldn't have been more true. It was a cold Friday evening in Manhattan. I had just been laid off from my marketing job. Again. Third time in 2 years. I was broke, exhausted, and honestly, ready to give up on this whole New York dream thing. But my best friend Sarah refused to let me wallow. She dragged me to this fancy art gallery opening in Tribeca, some charity event for kids or whatever. I didn't want to go. I was wearing a dress I'd bought at a thrift store and shoes that were killing my feet. Everyone there looked like they owned the city, and I felt like I was just visiting. That's when I saw him. He was standing alone in front of this massive painting. Dark suit, perfectly tailored, but something about him seemed different. He wasn't mingling like everyone else. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He just stood there, genuinely lost in the art. I don't know what came over me, but I walked up to him. "Beautiful, isn't it?" I said. He turned to look at me, and I swear time stopped. Dark eyes, strong jawline, a smile that could melt steel. "It is," he said. "But I think the artist is trying too hard. Real beauty doesn't need to scream for attention." I laughed. "Wow, that's either really deep or really pretentious." He grinned. "Maybe both?" And just like that, we were talking. Not the fake, surface-level small talk you have at these events. Real conversation. About art, about life, about dreams and failures and everything in between. His name was Alexander, or Alex, as he insisted I call him. He told me he worked in business. That's it. Just business. I didn't push. Honestly, I didn't care. There was something about him that felt real. We talked for 2 hours straight. I forgot about Sarah. I forgot about being broke. I forgot about everything except the man standing in front of me. When the gallery started closing, he did something that surprised me. He didn't ask for my number. He didn't try to impress me with expensive dinner plans. He just said, "Can I walk you home?" So we walked through the streets of Manhattan, past the glowing skyscrapers and yellow caps. We grabbed hot dogs from a street vendor. He paid, of course, but the way he did it, it wasn't flashy. It was just normal. We talked about everything and nothing. He asked about my dreams. I told him I wanted to start my own company someday, something that actually mattered. He listened like every word I said was gold. When we reached my tiny apartment building in Brooklyn, I felt this weird sadness, like I didn't want the night to end. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "I'd like that," I said. He smiled, wrote his number on a napkin from the hot dog stand, and handed it to me. "No fancy business card?" I joked. "I'm trying to keep things simple," he said. And then he left. No kiss, no grand gesture, just a smile and a promise. I floated up to my apartment, feeling like I was in some kind of dream. The next morning, I texted him. Just a simple, "Hey, last night was amazing." He responded immediately. "It really was. Dinner tonight? I know a place." That night, he picked me up in a regular black car. Not a limo, not some flashy sports car. Just normal. We went to this little Italian restaurant in the West Village, the kind of place where the owner knows everyone's name. We ate pasta, we drank wine, we laughed until our stomachs hurt. Over the next few weeks, it was like living in a romantic movie. Coffee dates in Central Park, late night walks across the Brooklyn Bridge. He'd text me good morning every single day. He remembered everything I told him. My favorite flower, my coffee order, the book I mentioned wanting to read. But here's the thing. He never talked about his work, never mentioned where he lived, never let me meet his friends or family. At first, I thought he was just private. But then little things started adding up. Like the time we were at a cafe, and this guy in a suit appeared out of nowhere and whispered something in Alex's ear. Alex's whole face changed. He looked worried, maybe even scared. "I'm sorry, I have to take this call," he said, and stepped outside for 20 minutes. When he came back, he was all smiles again, like nothing happened. Or the time I tried to surprise him at his office, and he completely shut me down. "I'll meet you somewhere," he said, almost panicked. "My workplace is complicated." Red flags. I knew they were red flags, but God, I was falling for him, hard. Sarah warned me, "Girl, you don't even know where this man lives. You don't know what he does. This is crazy." But I didn't want to listen, because when I was with him,
Everything felt perfect. It was our 1-month anniversary when things started to crack. We were at his apartment. Well, finally, he'd invited me over for the first time, and let me tell you, when I walked in, my jaw dropped. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, marble floors, art that looked like it belonged at a museum. This wasn't just nice. This was wealth, serious wealth. "You said you worked in business," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I do," he said, pouring us wine. "Alex, what do you actually do?" He hesitated. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncomfortable. "I run a company," he said finally. "What kind of company?" "A big one." I could feel my heart racing. "How big?" He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes, something like fear. "Very big," he whispered. That night, after he fell asleep, I couldn't help myself. I grabbed my phone and did what I should have done weeks ago. I Googled him. Alexander Cross, CEO of Cross Tech Industries, net worth $8.3 billion. Billion, with a B. My hands were shaking. I scrolled through images. Him at the Met Gala, him shaking hands with the president, him on the cover of Forbes. One of the most powerful CEOs under 40. The man who disrupted Silicon Valley. Alexander Cross, genius or ruthless? I sat there in his bed, in his penthouse that probably cost more than I'd make in 10 lifetimes, staring at my phone. The man I'd fallen in love with wasn't who I thought he was. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because as I kept scrolling, I found something else. Articles about lawsuits, whispers of shady business deals, accusations that had been quietly settled out of court. And one headline that made my blood run cold. Cross Tech under investigation. What is Alexander Cross hiding? I looked over at him, sleeping peacefully beside me, his face so calm, so beautiful. And I realized I had no idea who this man really was.
I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I was lying next to a man worth $8 billion. A man who'd been lying to me for a month. Or had he? He never actually lied. He just didn't tell me the truth. I watched him sleep, his chest rising and falling peacefully, and my mind was racing with 1,000 questions. Why did he hide this from me? What else was he hiding? And that article, what was he being investigated for? When the sun finally came up, I carefully slipped out of bed and got dressed. I needed to leave. I needed to think. But as I was heading for the door, his voice stopped me. Leaving without saying goodbye? I turned around. He was sitting up in bed, looking at me with those dark eyes. Even now, even knowing who he was, my heart skipped a beat. "I know," he said quietly. "You know what? I know you Googled me last night. I heard you." My face went hot. "Alex, or should I call you Mr. Cross?" He flinched. "Please don't. I'm still just Alex, the same guy who ate hot dogs with you on the street." "Are you though?" I asked. Because the Alex I knew worked in business. The real Alex is apparently one of the richest men in the world. He got out of bed and walked toward me. "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to know me, not my money, not my company, just me." "And the investigation?" I asked. "What about that?" His jaw tightened. "It's complicated." Then uncomplicated. He ran his hand through his hair, something I'd learned he did when he was stressed. "Can we have breakfast first, please? And then I'll tell you everything, I promise." I should have left. Every logical part of my brain was screaming at me to walk out that door. But my heart, my stupid heart, wanted to stay. "Okay," I said. "Breakfast." Breakfast was surreal. He made pancakes, actual pancakes. This billionaire CEO stood in his designer kitchen making pancakes from scratch while telling me about how his grandmother taught him the recipe. For a moment, it felt normal again, like we were just two people falling in love. But then his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his whole face changed. "I have to take this," he said, walking to the other room. I could hear bits and pieces.
No, I told you to handle it. That's not acceptable. Do whatever it takes. When he came back, he was wearing a different mask, the CEO mask, all business. I'm sorry, he said. Something came up at work. I have to go in. It's Sunday, I said. Emergencies don't take days off. He kissed my forehead. My driver will take you home. And tonight I'll tell you everything. I promise. Dinner at 8? Before I could answer, he was gone. Suit on, briefcase in hand. Transformed from the guy making pancakes to Alexander Cross, billionaire CEO, in less than 5 minutes. His driver took me home in a car that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. The whole ride, I felt like I was in some weird fever dream. Sarah was waiting for me when I got home. She took one look at my face and said, "Spill everything." So I told her about the penthouse, about finding out who he really was, about the investigation. "Girl, you need to run," she said. "This is crazy. You don't know what you're getting into. He said he'd explain everything tonight." And you believe him? I didn't know. I wanted to, but that article kept playing in my mind. Crosstech under investigation. I spent the rest of the day Googling everything I could find about Alexander Cross and Crosstech Industries. His company was huge. Tech, finance, real estate, you name it. He'd built it from nothing in just 12 years. A self-made billionaire. The American dream. But the more I dug, the more questions I had. There were mentions of hostile takeovers, competitors who'd mysteriously gone bankrupt, lawsuits that had been settled quietly.
And then I found it. An article from 6 months ago. Small, buried on page 3 of the business section. Former Crosstech executive found dead. Suicide suspected. My hands started shaking. The executive, Marcus Chen, had been about to testify in some kind of investigation, and then he was just gone. The article said suicide, but the comment section told a different story. Conspiracy theories, accusations, people saying Marcus was about to expose something big. I slammed my laptop shut. This was crazy. I was dating a guy for 1 month, and now I was going down internet rabbit holes about mysterious deaths? But I couldn't shake it. Something felt wrong. That evening, Alex sent a car for me. Not the driver this time, a different car. Sleek, black, with 2 men in suits sitting in front. "Miss Sarah," one of them said when I came downstairs, "we're here to escort you to Mr. Cross." Escort. Not drive. Escort. The car didn't take me to his penthouse. Instead, we drove to the outskirts of the city, to a private estate hidden behind massive gates and security. My stomach was in knots. The gates opened and we drove up a long driveway. At the end was a mansion. Not a house, a mansion. The kind you see in movies about royalty. Alex was waiting at the entrance. He changed into casual clothes, but he looked tense. "Welcome to my real home," he said. "Your real home? So the penthouse?" "Is where I stay during the week. This is where I actually live." He led me inside and my breath caught. It was beautiful, elegant, but also cold, like a museum. "I know this is a lot," he said, "but I wanted you to see the real me. All of it." We walked through hallways lined with art, past rooms I couldn't even identify, a library with thousands of books, a home theater, an indoor pool. Finally, we reached a study. He poured us both a drink and sat down across from me. "Ask me anything," he said. "I'll tell you the truth." "Okay," I said. "Let's start with the investigation. What are you being investigated for?" He took a long sip of his drink. "Tax fraud, or at least that's what they're claiming. My company has been accused of using offshore accounts to hide assets." "Did you?" "It's complicated. Technically, everything we did was legal, but morally?" He looked away. "I'm not proud of everything I've done to build this empire." "What about Marcus Chen?" His head snapped up. "How do you know about Marcus?" "It was," Alex said, but his voice cracked slightly. "You don't sound convinced." He stood up and walked to the window. "Marcus was my friend, my first real investor. He believed in me when no one else did. But when the company started growing, we disagreed about certain decisions." "What kind of decisions?" "The kind that make you rich but keep you up at night." He turned to face me. "Marcus wanted to go public with some information about our early investors, people who weren't exactly clean. I told him it would destroy everything we built. We fought. He quit. And then he died." "He killed himself," Alex said firmly. "The police investigated. It was ruled a suicide."
But you feel guilty. Every single day. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, I could hear the wind rustling through trees I couldn't see. Is that the dark secret? I asked. Questionable business practices and a guilty conscience? Alex looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Do you want it to be? I want the truth. He walked over and knelt in front of me, taking my hands. The truth is that I've done things I'm not proud of. I've made deals with people I shouldn't have. I've crushed competitors. I've played dirty when I had to, but I've never broken the law. Not technically. Not technically isn't the same as not at all.
I know. He squeezed my hands. And if you want to walk away right now, I'd understand. Because this life, it's not easy. There are always cameras, always enemies, always people trying to tear you down. Is that why you have security following you everywhere? He nodded. I've received threats. Nothing serious, but enough to be careful. My mind was spinning. This was insane. 1 month ago, I was a broke, unemployed girl eating ramen for dinner. Now I was sitting in a billionaire's mansion talking about death threats and federal investigations. I need time, I said, to process all of this. Of course, he said, standing up. Take all the time you need. I'll have my driver. No, I interrupted. I'll take an Uber. I need some space. Something flickered across his face. Hurt, maybe. But he nodded. I understand. As I was leaving, walking through that massive entrance hall, I heard voices, raised voices, coming from somewhere deeper in the house. I should have kept walking, but curiosity got the better of me. I followed the sound to a partially open door. Through the crack, I could see Alex on the phone, and he was angry, angrier than I'd ever seen him. I don't care what it costs, he was saying. Make it go away. All of it. The investigation, the articles, everything. Use whatever leverage we have. Silence while the other person spoke. I said I don't care. Do you understand? This cannot come out. Not now. Not when... He paused. Just handle it. That's what I pay you for. He slammed the phone down on the desk. And then I heard him say something that made my blood run cold. She can never find out the truth. Never. I backed away from the door, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. He was talking about me. I practically ran out of that house. My Uber couldn't come fast enough. The whole ride home, his words echoed in my mind. She can never find out the truth. What truth? What was he hiding? Because tax fraud and questionable business deals suddenly seemed like the tip of a very dark iceberg. When I got home, there was a package waiting outside my door. No return address, just my name written in elegant handwriting. I brought it inside and opened it carefully. Inside was a note and a small velvet box. The note said, I'm sorry for everything, for the secrets, for the complications, but what I feel for you is real. Everything else is just noise. A. I opened the box. A diamond necklace. Not flashy, actually quite simple, but clearly expensive. The kind of expensive that made my hands shake just holding it. There was a second, smaller note tucked under the necklace. This belonged to my mother. She would have loved you. I sat on my floor holding this priceless piece of jewelry and felt tears streaming down my face. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the investigations and overheard phone conversations, I was still in love with him, and that terrified me more than anything else. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. I know I asked you to take time, but I need to see you. Tomorrow. Please. There's something else you need to know. Something I should have told you from the beginning. I stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct told me to block his number, to return the necklace, to run as far away from Alexander Cross as possible. But instead, I typed back, okay, tomorrow. Because the truth was, I needed to know. I needed to understand what I'd gotten myself into, even if that truth destroyed everything.
I barely slept that night either. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice. She can never find out the truth. What truth? What could possibly be worse than what I already knew? By morning, I'd convinced myself a dozen times to cancel, to block his number, to forget Alexander Cross ever existed. But I didn't. Because somewhere between the fear and the confusion, there was still that stupid, stubborn part of me that loved him, that needed to believe there was an explanation for all of this. At 10 in the morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello?
Miss Bennett? A woman's voice, professional, cold. This is Christine Zhao. I'm Mr. Cross's attorney. My stomach dropped. His attorney? Mr. Cross has asked me to brief you before your meeting today. Are you available to speak? What? Why would I need to be briefed by his lawyer? For your protection, and his. What Mr. Cross is about to share with you is highly sensitive information. Before he does, we need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I almost laughed. Almost. An NDA? Are you serious? Completely. This is standard procedure for anyone who enters Mr. Cross's inner circle. The car will pick you up at noon. We'll review the documents before your meeting with him. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there, staring at my phone, feeling like I'd fallen into some kind of corporate thriller. Sarah was right. I should run. But at 11:59, when that black car pulled up outside my building, I got in anyway. The car took me to a law office in Midtown. Sleek, expensive, the kind of place where every minute probably cost more than my rent. Christine Zhao was exactly what I expected. Tailored suit, perfect hair, the kind of woman who could destroy you with a smile. Miss Bennett, she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. She led me to a conference room where a stack of papers waited on the table. This is a standard non-disclosure agreement, she said, sitting across from me. It states that anything Mr. Cross shares with you today cannot be repeated to anyone, not your friends, not your family, not the media. Violation of this agreement could result in legal action and significant financial penalties. I stared at the papers. What exactly is he going to tell me? I'm not at liberty to say, but I can tell you that Mr. Cross doesn't take this lightly. He's never shared this information with anyone outside his legal team and closest advisors. Not even past girlfriends? Christine's expression didn't change. You're the first, Miss Bennett. Something about that should have felt special. Instead, it felt terrifying. What if I don't sign? Then the car will take you home and you won't see Mr. Cross again. He'll respect your decision, but the relationship will end here. My hands were shaking as I picked up the pen. Every rational part of my brain was screaming, but my heart was already signing the papers. After the NDA was signed and notarized, Christine made a phone call. She's ready, was all she said. 20 minutes later, I was back in that black car, driving to a location Christine wouldn't tell me about. We drove for over an hour, leaving the city behind. Trees replaced buildings. The roads got narrower, more isolated. Finally, we turned onto a private road. No signs, just forest on both sides. At the end of the road was a building. Modern, glass and steel, completely out of place in the middle of nowhere. Alex was standing at the entrance. He looked different, tired, like he hadn't slept either. When our eyes met, I saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Fear. Thank you for coming, he said as I got out of the car. I know this is all very intense. That's one word for it. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Come inside, please.
The building was just one large room, minimalist. A few chairs, a table, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the forest. This is my safe place, Alex said. When everything gets too loud, I come here. No one knows about it except Christine and my head of security. And now you. Why did you bring me here? Because what I'm about to tell you, I needed to be somewhere I felt safe, somewhere no one could overhear. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. I sat. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Alex paced for a moment, running his hand through his hair, that nervous gesture. I told you that Marcus was my first investor, he began. That's true, but I didn't tell you how I met him or who introduced us. He stopped pacing and looked directly at me. My father introduced us. Victor Cross. The name meant nothing to me. Okay? You wouldn't know the name. He's been dead for 15 years. But in his time, Victor Cross was one of the most powerful crime bosses on the East Coast. The room went silent except for my sharp intake of breath. Crime boss. As in, the mafia? Alex nodded slowly. Organized crime. Money laundering. Racketeering. Extortion. My father built an empire on blood and corruption, and when he died, he left it all to me. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. I was 22 years old, Alex continued, his voice hollow, fresh out of business school. I came home for his funeral and found out I'd inherited not just his money, but his entire criminal organization. His associates.
his debts, his enemies. But you run a tech company, a legitimate, that I built using his money, Alex interrupted. Every dollar of my initial investment came from my father's criminal empire. I took dirty money and I cleaned it. I created Crosstech as a way to legitimize the fortune he left me. He sat down across from me, his eyes searching my face. I was young and stupid and terrified. Marcus was one of my father's associates. He showed me how to move the money through legal channels, how to invest it in legitimate businesses, how to make it clean. Money laundering, I whispered. In the beginning, yes, but I swear to you, everything I've done for the past 10 years has been completely legal. Crosstech is a real company. We create real products. We employ thousands of people. I've spent the last decade trying to distance myself from my father's legacy. But you can't, can you? That's what the investigation is really about. They've figured out where your initial funding came from. Alex's jaw tightened. They suspect. They don't have proof. Yet. And Marcus? He knew everything. That's why he's dead. He killed himself. Stop lying. I stood up, my voice echoing in the empty space. You don't believe that any more than I do. Alex stood too, his anguished. You're right. I don't. Marcus was going to testify about the early days of Crosstech, about where the money came from, about my father's associates who are still active. And then he died. Conveniently. Did you kill him? The question hung in the air between us. No, Alex said, his voice breaking. But I know who did, and I can't prove it. And even if I could, going after them would mean exposing everything, destroying the company, putting thousands of people out of work, and probably getting myself killed in the process. I felt like I was going to be sick. Your father's associates, they're still involved in your company? Not directly, but they have leverage. They invested in Crosstech in the early days. They own shares. They have board seats through shell corporations. I've been trying to buy them out for years, but they won't sell. Because as long as they have a stake in my company, they have a stake in me. He walked to the window, staring out at the forest.
I'm trapped, he said quietly. If I expose them, I expose myself. My company collapses, I probably go to prison. And they walk away clean because I don't have enough evidence to prove anything. So you just live with it? Pretend everything's fine while murderers own part of your company? What choice do I have? He turned to face me and I saw tears in his eyes. I've built something good out of something terrible. Crosstech does real good in the world. We fund schools and hospitals and research. We've created jobs and opportunities for people who had none. If I burn it all down to expose my father's associates, all of that goes away too. That's not justice. No, he agreed. It's not. It's survival. We stood there in silence, the weight of everything he told me pressing down on us. Why are you telling me this now? I finally asked. Because I love you. The words hit me like a physical blow. I've never said that to anyone before, he continued, walking toward me. Not like this, not meaning it the way I mean it with you. And I couldn't let this go any further without you knowing the truth. All of it, the good and the terrible and everything in between. He stopped in front of me, close enough to touch, but not touching. I understand if you want to leave, if you never want to see me again. But I needed you to know that what we have, it's the only real thing in my life. Everything else is compromise and corruption and playing a part. But you, with you, I'm just Alex, the guy who makes pancakes and takes walks in the park. And I love you for letting me be that person. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, betrayal, sympathy, love. All of it at once. I need time, I said, my voice shaking. I need to think. I know. Take all the time you need. And I need you to be honest with me about everything. No more secrets. No more locked rooms and mysterious phone calls. If we're going to even try to make this work, I need complete transparency. Done,
he said immediately. Anything you want to know, anytime you want to know it. I promise. I wiped my eyes and looked at him. Really looked at him. The billionaire CEO, the son of a crime boss, the man who'd built an empire on blood money, the man I loved. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too. The drive back to the city was silent. My mind was spinning with everything Alex had told me. His father was a mobster. His money was dirty. His company was entangled with criminals. Marcus was murdered. And somehow, despite all of that, I still loved him. Was I insane? Probably. Should I run as far away as possible? Definitely. But there was something about the way he'd looked at me when he said, "I love you." Something real and raw and desperately honest. When we got back to my apartment, the driver handed me a phone. A new phone. From Mr. Cross, he said. It's secure, encrypted, for your safety. My safety. Because apparently I was now involved with someone whose associates murdered people who knew too much. What had I gotten myself into? I spent the next 2 days alone in my apartment. Sarah called 15 times. I didn't answer. How could I? I'd signed an NDA. I couldn't tell her anything. I researched Victor Cross, found old newspaper articles about his trial, about the accusations, about his mysterious death in prison. I researched organized crime families, money laundering, RICO cases. And I researched Alex, every article, every interview, looking for signs that I had missed. And you know what I found? A man who'd spent 15 years trying to be the opposite of his father. Donations to charity, ethical business practices, fighting for workers' rights and environmental causes. Was it all an act? A cover? Or was it a man genuinely trying to build something good from something terrible? On the third day, I got a text. On the new encrypted phone. It wasn't from Alex.
The number was blocked. The message was simple. Stay away from Alexander Cross. This is your only warning. My hands started shaking. I called Alex immediately. I got a text, I said when he answered. A threat. I know. His voice was tight. My security team flagged it. I'm sending someone to your apartment right now. Don't leave. Don't answer the door for anyone except the man I send. Alex, what's happening? They know about you. My father's old associates. They know you're important to me. And they're sending a message. What kind of message? Silence. Alex, what kind of message? The kind that means you're in danger now, too. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a man in a dark suit. He held up an ID. James Porter, head of Mr. Cross's security detail. He sent me to protect you. I opened the door. James was tall, muscular, former military by the look of him. Ma'am, we need to move you to a secure location, now. What? No, I'm not leaving my home because... Ma'am, his voice was firm, but not unkind. Someone followed you home yesterday. They've been watching your building. We need to move, now. The fear must have shown on my face, because his expression softened slightly. Mr. Pross is waiting for you. You'll be safe with him, I promise. I grabbed my bag with shaking hands and followed James downstairs to an armored SUV. As we pulled away from my building, I saw it. Another car, dark windows. It had been parked across the street, watching me. They took me to a place I'd never seen before. Not the penthouse, not the mansion, somewhere new. A safe house, James called it. Alex was waiting inside, pacing like a caged animal. When he saw me, the relief on his face was overwhelming. Thank God, he said, pulling me into his arms. I'm so sorry. I never should have told you. I never should have put you in danger. What's happening? I asked, pulling back to look at him. Who are these people? My father's old partner, Victor Volkov. He's the one who had Marcus killed, and now he knows about you. He's trying to send me a message, trying to remind me who's really in control. Why now, after all these years? Alex's face darkened. Because I've been buying up shares, trying to push them out of the company. I thought I was being careful, using shell corporations, hiding my moves, but Victor figured it out, and this is his response. So what do we do? We? Alex looked at me with something like wonder. You're staying? I thought about it. Really thought about it. This was insane. Dangerous. Everything I should run from. But looking at Alex, seeing the fear and the hope and the love in his eyes,
I'm staying, I said. But we're not just going to hide. We're going to fight back. It's too dangerous. It's already dangerous, I interrupted. They already threatened me. So we either run forever or we end this, and I'm not running. Alex stared at me like he was seeing him for the first time. You're incredible, he said softly. I'm terrified, I corrected, but I'm not leaving you. He kissed me then, desperate and fierce and full of promise. When we pulled apart, I saw something new in his eyes. Determination. Okay, he said. If we're going to do this, we do it right. We gather evidence, we build a case, and we take Viktor Volkov down once and for all. How? He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who'd finally decided to stop running. I know where all the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively. My father kept records, evidence, insurance. I know where it is. Then let's get it. But as we started planning, as we talked about evidence and witnesses and building a case, my phone buzzed. The encrypted one. Another message. Another blocked number. This time it wasn't a warning. It was a photo.
Of Sarah, my best friend Sarah, walking out of a coffee shop I knew she went to every morning. And underneath, 3 words. Make him stop. I showed Alex the phone with shaking hands. His face went white. They're not just threatening you anymore, I whispered. They're threatening everyone I love. And that's when I realized just how dark this was about to get. Because Viktor Volkov wasn't just sending warnings. He was declaring war. I couldn't breathe. Sarah's face on that phone screen, smiling, innocent, completely unaware that she was being watched by a man who'd already killed once. We need to protect her, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Right now, we need to get her somewhere safe. Alex was already on his phone. James, I need a team at this location immediately. He rattled off Sarah's address. Pick her up. Don't tell her why. Just get her to the safe house, now. He hung up and looked at me. They'll have her here within the hour. What do I tell her? How do I explain any of this without breaking the NDA? Forget the NDA, Alex said firmly. Your friend's life is more important than a legal document. Tell her everything. Everything? Everything. 53 minutes later, Sarah burst through the door of the safe house with James right behind her. She took one look at me, then at Alex, then at the armed security guards posted around the room. What the hell is going on? She demanded. These guys showed up at my apartment, said I was in danger, and basically kidnapped me. Sarah, I grabbed her hands. I need you to sit down, and I need you to listen, because I'm about to tell you something that sounds absolutely insane. So I told her everything. About Alex's father, about the mob connections, about Marcus Chen, about Viktor Volkov and the threats. Sarah's face went through about 15 different emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, fear. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Alex. You brought this into her life. You put her in danger because of your family's criminal past? Yes, Alex said simply, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But right now, I'm trying to keep both of you alive. By hiding? By running? No, I said, by fighting back. We're going after Volkov. Sarah looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Are you insane? These people killed someone. They're threatening us, and you want to what? Take them on? If we don't, we'll be running forever, I said, and I'm not living my life looking over my shoulder. This is crazy, Sarah said, but her voice had softened slightly. She looked at me, really looked at me. You love him, don't you? Yes. Even after everything? Even after everything. She sighed. You always did have terrible taste in men, but this is next level. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Sarah turned to Alex. Okay, so what's the plan? How do we take down a mobster? Over the next few hours, Alex laid it all out. His father, Victor Cross, had kept meticulous records, evidence of every deal, every transaction, every crime. He'd kept it as insurance, as leverage. My father was paranoid, Alex explained. He trusted no one, so he documented everything. Names, dates, accounts, crimes. He kept it all in a secure location in case he ever needed to use it against his associates. Where? I asked. A safe deposit box, in the Cayman Islands, in a bank that specializes in discretion. You've known about this the whole time? Sarah asked, and you never used it? Alex's jaw tightened. If I used it, I'd be exposing myself too,
My early business dealings, the money laundering, everything. I'd go down with them. But now you're willing to risk it, I said softly. Now I have something worth risking it for, he said, looking directly at me. James stepped forward. The problem is getting to the Cayman Islands without Volkov knowing. He has people everywhere. At airports, private airfields, he's probably monitoring your travel. Then we don't tell anyone, Alex said. We use a shell company I set up years ago, a corporate jet registered under a name that can't be traced back to me. We file a flight plan to the Bahamas but land in Cayman. We go in, get the evidence, and get out before anyone knows we were there. And then what? Sarah asked. You just hand everything over to the FBI?
To the right people in the FBI, Alex clarified. People who can't be bought. Christine has been vetting federal prosecutors for months. She knows who we can trust. It sounded almost too simple, which meant it probably was. What about us? I asked. Sarah and me. We're just supposed to sit here while you fly to the Caribbean? Yes, Alex said. You'll be safe here. James will stay with you. Full security detail. Absolutely not, I said. If you're doing this, I'm coming with you. It's too dangerous. It's dangerous here too, I interrupted. At least if I'm with you, we're together. I'm not sitting around waiting to find out if you're alive or dead. Alex looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face must have convinced him. Fine, he said, but Sarah stays here. I won't put both of you at risk. Sarah looked relieved. Trust me, I'm good with that. Someone needs to stay here and plan your funerals if this all goes wrong. Not helping, I said. Too soon? Sarah tried to smile, but it came out shaky. We left at dawn, Alex, me, and 2 security guards named Marcus and Leo. The irony of having a bodyguard named Marcus wasn't lost on me. The jet was small but luxurious, the kind of plane that screamed money but whispered discretion. As we took off, I watched New York disappear beneath us and wondered if I'd ever see it again. You're quiet, Alex said, taking my hand. I'm thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. Me too. That's not reassuring. He squeezed my hand. I know, but I promise you, whatever happens, I'll keep you safe. That's not a promise you can make. Then I'll die trying. The certainty in his voice sent chills down my spine. 4 hours later, we landed in Grand Cayman. The sun was bright, the water impossibly blue. It would have been paradise if we weren't there to collect evidence against a murderer. A car was waiting for us. We drove through the island's capital, past tourists and beach resorts, to the financial district. The bank was exactly what I expected, discreet. To the right people in the FBI, Alex clarified. People who can't be bought. Christine has been vetting federal prosecutors for months. She knows who we can trust. It sounded almost too simple, which meant it probably was. What about us? I asked. Sarah and me. We're just supposed to sit here while you fly to the Caribbean? Yes, Alex said. You'll be safe here. James will stay with you. Full security detail. Absolutely not, I said. If you're doing this, I'm coming with you. It's too dangerous. It's dangerous here too, I interrupted. At least if I'm with you, we're together. I'm not sitting around waiting to find out if you're alive or dead. Alex looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face must have convinced him. Fine, he said, but Sarah stays here. I won't put both of you at risk. Sarah looked relieved. Trust me, I'm good with that. Someone needs to stay here and plan your funerals if this all goes wrong. Not helping, I said. Too soon? Sarah tried to smile, but it came out shaky. We left at dawn, Alex, me, and 2 security guards named Marcus and Leo. The irony of having a bodyguard named Marcus wasn't lost on me. The jet was small but luxurious, the kind of plane that screamed money but whispered discretion. As we took off, I watched New York disappear beneath us and wondered if I'd ever see it again. You're quiet, Alex said, taking my hand. I'm thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. Me too. That's not reassuring. He squeezed my hand. I know, but I promise you, whatever happens, I'll keep you safe. That's not a promise you can make. Then I'll die trying. The certainty in his voice sent chills down my spine. 4 hours later, we landed in Grand Cayman. The sun was bright, the water impossibly blue. It would have been paradise if we weren't there to collect evidence against a murderer. A car was waiting for us. We drove through the island's capital,
past tourists and beach resorts to the financial district. The bank was exactly what I expected, discreet, secure, the kind of place where billionaires hide their secrets. Alex approached the desk with a key and several forms of identification. The banker, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, barely glanced at them. "Mr. Smith," he said. "Smith, of course. Follow me, please." We were led to a private room, just Alex and me. Marcus and Leo waited outside. The banker returned with a large metal box and set it on the table. "You have 30 minutes, he said, and left. Alex stared at the box like it might explode. "This is it," he said quietly. "Once I open this, there's no going back." "There's already no going back," I said. "Open it." He inserted the key and turned it. Inside were files, dozens of files, photographs, USB drives, documents. Alex started going through them, his face getting paler with each page. "God," he whispered, "I knew it was bad, but this is worse than I imagined." "What is it?" He handed me a photograph. It showed his father with several men I didn't recognize, and one I did. Senator Richard Morrison, current chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. My father owned a senator, Alex said hollowly. Multiple senators, judges, police commissioners. This goes deeper than I ever knew. We kept digging, found evidence of murders, money laundering, political corruption, years and years of crime, all meticulously documented. And then I found a file labeled Viktor Volkov. Inside was everything: bank transfers, communications, photographs, and a video. Alex plugged the USB drive into his laptop. The video was grainy, dated 15 years ago. It showed Viktor Volkov and Alex's father in what looked like a warehouse. They were arguing. We couldn't hear what they were saying, but we didn't need to, because the video showed Viktor Volkov pulling out a gun and shooting someone, a young man, who collapsed to the ground.
Alex made a choking sound. "That's Tommy Ricci," he said. "He was my father's accountant. They said he ran off with money, that he disappeared. But he didn't disappear. Victor killed him." "This is it," I said. "This is the evidence we need." Alex was already copying everything onto encrypted drives, all the files, all the photos, everything. We had just finished when Marcus burst into the room. "We need to leave, now." "What's wrong?" "Someone knows we're here. Leo spotted a tail. They're outside the bank." My heart stopped. "Volkov's people?" "We have to assume so. There's a back exit. We go now." We grabbed everything and followed Marcus through the bank's service corridors. Leo was waiting at the back door with the car running. "Go," he shouted. We piled into the car and Leo floored it. Behind us, I saw 2 black SUVs pull out of a parking lot and follow. "They're on us," Marcus said, pulling out a gun. "No shooting," Alex ordered. "We're in the middle of a city, innocent people." "If we don't get to the plane, none of this matters," Marcus shot back. Leo was weaving through traffic, taking turns at dangerous speeds. The SUVs stayed right behind us. We hit the highway toward the airport. No traffic, nothing between us and them. One of the SUVs pulled up beside us. The window rolled down. "Get down," Marcus yelled. Gunshots, the sound of glass shattering. Alex threw himself over me, covering my body with his. Leo swerved, trying to shake them. More gunshots. And then Leo made a sharp turn off the highway onto a side road. The SUVs followed, but one of them took the turn too fast and flipped. "One down," Marcus said, but the second SUV was still coming. We raced down narrow roads through residential areas. People scattered. Someone screamed. And then I saw it. The airport. The private terminal. "The plane better be ready," Leo shouted. "It is," Alex said, still covering me. "As soon as we board, we take off." We screeched into the private terminal. The jet was right there, engines already running. We tumbled out of the car and ran for the plane. I could hear the SUV behind us, doors opening, men shouting. More gunshots. Marcus pushed us up the stairs. "Go, go." We scrambled into the plane. Marcus and Leo jumped in behind us. "Close the door," Alex yelled to the pilot. The door was closing. The plane was already moving. Through the window, I saw men running toward us. Too late. We accelerated down the runway. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. And then we were in the air, climbing, safe. For now. The flight back to New York was silent except for the sound of our breathing. Alex held me the entire time, his arms wrapped around me like he was afraid I'd disappear. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry." But I wasn't sorry. Terrified, yes. Traumatized, definitely. But not sorry. Because we had the evidence. We had everything we needed to bring Viktor Volkov down. When we finally landed in New York, Christine was waiting on the tarmac with a team of federal agents. "The prosecutor is ready," she said. "As soon as you hand over the evidence, they'll move on Volkov."
Alex looked at the encrypted drives in his hand, his father's legacy, his own criminal past, everything. Do it, I said softly. And this. He took a deep breath and handed the drives to the lead agent. Everything you need is on here, Alex said. Bank accounts, communications, evidence of murders, corruption, everything, including my own involvement in the early years. The agent looked surprised. Mr. Cross, you understand that by giving us this, you may be implicating yourself? I know, Alex said, but it's time to stop running from my father's sins. Whatever happens to me, happens. Just promise me you'll protect her. He gestured to me. We'll do our best, sir. It wasn't the promise I wanted to hear, but it was the only one we were going to get.
The next 72 hours were chaos. Federal agents raided Volkov's properties. Arrests were made. The news exploded with stories about organized crime and political corruption. Crosstech's stock plummeted. Board members resigned. Investors panicked. And Alex was questioned for 3 days straight. I wasn't allowed to see him. Christine kept me updated, but all she would say was, he's cooperating fully. Sarah stayed with me at the safe house. We watched the news coverage together, saw Alex's face on every channel. Billionaire CEO's dark past revealed. Alexander Cross, from crime family to corporate empire. Tech mogul linked to organized crime. It was brutal. Public opinion turned against him overnight. And then, on the 4th day, Christine called. They're cutting a deal, she said. Alex has agreed to testify against everyone. Volkov, the corrupt politicians, everyone in his father's old network. In exchange, he'll avoid prison time, but will forfeit a significant portion of his assets and step down as CEO of Crosstech. He's stepping down. It's the only way. The board demanded it. The shareholders demanded it. If he wants to save the company, he has to leave it. Can I see him? Tomorrow. They're releasing him in the morning. I was waiting outside the federal building when he emerged. He looked exhausted, broken. But when he saw me, his whole face changed. He walked straight to me and pulled me into his arms. You waited, he said. Of course I waited. After everything, after what this has done to my reputation, to my company, you still... I love you, I said. The rest is just noise. He kissed me then, right there in front of the federal building, with cameras flashing and reporters shouting questions. When we pulled apart, he said, I have something to ask you. Okay. He took a step back and to my absolute shock got down on one knee. The reporters went crazy. I've lost almost everything, he said, pulling out a ring. Not a fancy ring. Simple, beautiful. My company, my reputation, most of my fortune. But through all of this, the only thing I was afraid of losing was you. Tears were streaming down my face. I know this is crazy. I know we've only known each other a few months. I know I've put you through hell. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. So, he looked up at me with those dark eyes I'd fallen in love with at an art gallery. Will you marry me? 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. All the reasons I should say no. All the complications and dangers and uncertainties. But my heart only knew one answer. Yes. End of episode 4. Next time on I Fell in Love with a Billionaire CEO, the final chapter, the ultimate sacrifice, and a choice that will determine their future forever.
I said yes to a man who had just lost everything, and somehow that felt like the most honest moment of my entire life. The media went insane. Photos of the proposal were everywhere. Twitter exploded. The headlines were brutal. Gold digger gets her ring after he loses his billions. Billionaire's fiancé, true love or perfect timing? From rags to riches to rags, the Alexander Cross love story. I stopped reading after the first day. It didn't matter what they said. I knew the truth. But Alex read every article, every comment, every accusation. You should leave me, he said one night at the safe house. We were still there, still under protection until Volkov's trial. Go back to your normal life. Find someone who won't destroy your reputation just by being associated with them. Stop, I said. I'm not leaving. We've been through this. But you don't understand what this means. I'm not a billionaire anymore. I had to forfeit 70% of my assets. The penthouse, the mansion, most of my holdings.
all of it gone to pay restitution and penalties. Okay.
Then maybe that's okay, I said. Maybe you don't need a plan. Maybe you just need to be Alex, not Alexander Cross, CEO, not the son of Victor Cross, just Alex. A small smile crossed his face. Just Alex. I like the sound of that. The trial began on a cold Monday in November. The courthouse was surrounded by media, protesters, supporters. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. Alex had to enter through a back entrance with armed guards. I sat in the gallery with Sarah, watching the man I loved take the stand. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Elizabeth Reyes, led him through his testimony. He told everything: his father's criminal empire, the money laundering, the corruption, Marcus Chen's death, all of it. For 3 days he answered questions, never wavering, never backing down. And then came Volkov's defense attorney. Martin Kessler was a legend, the kind of lawyer who could make a jury believe anything. He approached Alex with a smile that made my skin crawl. "Mr. Cross," he began, "you've painted quite a picture of my client. A violent mobster, a murderer, a criminal mastermind. Very compelling." "It's the truth," Alex said. "Is it? Or is it a convenient story to absolve yourself of guilt? After all, you were the one who benefited from these alleged crimes. You built a billion-dollar empire on this so-called dirty money, not my client. You. I never claimed to be innocent. No, you just claimed to be a victim. Poor Alexander Cross, forced into his father's world. But you weren't forced, were you? You chose it. You chose to take the money. You chose to build your company with it. You chose to work with men like Victor Volkov." Alex's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "You're right. I made those choices, and I've spent the last 15 years trying to make up for them. By becoming a billionaire, by living in penthouses and mansions, some redemption." The prosecutor objected. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done. Kessler spent 2 days tearing apart Alex's credibility, questioning his motives, painting him as a liar trying to save himself. By the end of it, even I was shaken, and I knew the truth. That night, Alex was devastated. "They don't believe me," he said. "The jury. I could see it in their faces. They think I'm lying." "You don't know that?" "I do." He ran his hands through his hair. "Kessler destroyed me up there, made me look like exactly what I am, a criminal trying to blame someone else." "You're not a criminal. You're someone who made mistakes and is trying to make them right." Is there a difference? I didn't have an answer for that. The next morning, Christine called with worse news. "One of our key witnesses has recanted," she said. "Thomas Brennan, the former police commissioner. He was going to testify about Volkov's bribes. Now he's claiming he doesn't remember anything. Volkov got to him." "Can they still win without him?" I asked. "It's going to be harder. Much harder." Alex overheard the conversation. I saw something change in his face. "I need to talk to the prosecutor. Now." An hour later, we were in Elizabeth Reyes' office. "I want to give them more," I said. "More evidence, more testimony." "Mr. Cross, you've already testified to everything we discussed." "Not everything." He pulled out a USB drive. "This is my insurance. Evidence I kept separate from my father's files. Bank accounts in my name. Transactions I personally conducted in the early years. Proof of money laundering that I was directly involved in." Elizabeth stared at the drive. "If you give us this, you'll be implicating yourself. You could lose your immunity." "I know." "Alex, no," I started. He turned to me. "It's the only way. Without Brennan's testimony, they need more. And this proves that Volkov and I work together. It corroborates everything else. But it also proves I'm guilty too."
"You'll go to prison," Christine said quietly. "Maybe. Probably. But Volkov will too. And all the others. The corrupt senators, the judges, all of them." "There has to be another way," I said, my voice breaking. Alex took my hands. "There isn't. And even if there was, I'm tired of running from what I did. I'm tired of pretending I was complicit. It's time to face the consequences. But what about us? What about our future? He smiled sadly. You'll wait for me? Of course, but then we have a future. It might be delayed. It might be harder than we planned, but it's still there. I was crying now. This isn't fair. No, he agreed, but it's right. He handed the USB drive to Elizabeth Reyes. Do what you need to do, he said. The new evidence changed everything. Elizabeth Reyes presented it carefully, showed how it corroborated Alex's testimony, proved the connections between Volkov and the various crimes. But she also had to address what it meant for Alex. Mr. Cross has provided evidence that implicates himself, she told the jury. He's done this knowing it may cost him his freedom, because unlike the defendants in this case, Mr. Cross is willing to accept responsibility for his actions. It was a gamble, making Alex both witness and co-conspirator. The defense tried to use it against him. See, he admits he's a criminal. Why would you believe anything he says? But something shifted in the jury. I could see it. The new evidence was too detailed, too specific, too damning. After 6 weeks of testimony, the case went to the jury. We waited for 3 days. Sarah stayed with me. Christine kept us updated. Alex was released on bail but had to wear an ankle monitor. Whatever happens, he told me on the third night, I want you to know that loving you was the best decision I ever made. Everything else I did in my life was about building something, protecting something, hiding something. But you were the first real, honest, pure thing I ever had. Stop talking like this is goodbye, I said. I'm just preparing you. No, we're going to get through this together. He kissed my forehead. Together. On the fourth day, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom was packed, media everywhere. I sat in the front row, holding Sarah's hand so tight she winced. The defendants were brought in. Viktor Volkov looked calm, arrogant, like he knew he'd walk free. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. My heart was pounding. On the charge of murder in the first degree, how do you find the defendant, Viktor Volkov? Guilty. The courtroom erupted. Volkov's face went white. His lawyers started shouting objections. The judge banged his gavel. Order. They went through the rest of the charges. Guilty, guilty, guilty. All of them. Volkov, the senators, the judges. Every single defendant. Guilty. I watched Alex's face. Relief, sadness, resolution. Because he knew what came next. 2 weeks later, Alex stood before the judge for his own sentencing hearing. He pleaded guilty to money laundering and conspiracy charges. The prosecution had recommended leniency given his cooperation, but the judge could still sentence him to years in prison. I sat in the same gallery, in the same seat, watching the same man, but everything felt different. The judge looked at Alex over her glasses. Mr. Cross, you've cooperated extensively with this prosecution. Your testimony was instrumental in convicting some very dangerous criminals. However, you've also admitted to serious crimes. I understand, Your Honor, Alex said. The question before me is whether your cooperation and apparent remorse outweigh the severity of your actions. The courtroom was silent.
I've read the letters submitted on your behalf, from employees, from charities you funded, from people whose lives you've changed. And I've read the letters from victims of your father's organization, from families destroyed by the crimes you helped facilitate. Alex stood perfectly still. Taking everything into consideration, the judge continued, I hereby sentence you to 3 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation and 1,000 hours of community service. 3 years. It could have been so much worse, but it also felt like an eternity. Alex turned to look at me. Our eyes met, and I saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Peace. They took him into custody that day. I got to say goodbye in a small room with a guard watching. 3 years, he said, holding my hands. Then I'm free. We can start over. Really start over. I'll wait, I said. I'll wait forever if I have to. Don't wait forever. Visit me. Write me. Tell me about your life, about the company you're going to start, about everything. What company? He smiled. The one you told me about the night we met. Remember?
You said you wanted to start something that actually mattered. I'd almost forgotten that conversation at the art gallery. A lifetime ago. I can't start a company. I don't have the money or the experience or... You have something better. You have integrity. And you have this. He handed me an envelope. What is it? Everything I have left after the asset forfeiture. It's not billions. It's not even millions anymore. But it's enough to start something. I had Christine set up a trust. It's yours. Alex, I can't. Please. Let me do this. Let me help you build something good, something honest. The company I always wished Crosstech could have been from the beginning. I was crying too hard to speak. I just nodded. I love you, he said. And when I get out, I'm going to marry you. If you'll still have me. I'll still have you. One last kiss. One last embrace. And then he was gone. The first year was the hardest. I visited Alex every week, wrote him letters every day, told him about my life, about the company I was slowly building. I'd started small, a consulting firm focused on ethical business practices, helping companies transition away from questionable practices and towards sustainability and transparency. It was exactly the opposite of everything Alex's father had built, and exactly what Alex had always wanted to create. The company grew, slowly at first, then faster. People wanted to work with someone who had integrity, who had chosen the hard right over the easy wrong. Sarah became my business partner. Christine handled our legal work. We built something real. And every week, I told Alex about it, watched his face light up as I described our success. You're changing the world, he said during one visit, the way I always wanted to. We're changing it, I corrected. This was your dream too. Year 2 was easier. Alex was doing well in prison, teaching other inmates about business and finance, helping them prepare for life after release. He'd found purpose. Real purpose. Not building an empire, just helping people. And I kept building our company, our dream, the life we would share when he got out. The day of his release, I was waiting outside the prison at dawn. I wasn't alone. Sarah was there. Christine, even some of our employees, people who believed in second chances, in redemption. When Alex walked out, he looked different, older, but also later, like he'd finally put down a weight he'd been carrying his whole life. He saw me and smiled. That same smile from the art gallery all those years ago. I ran to him. Hey, he said, pulling me close. Hey yourself. I have nothing, he said. No money. No company. No empire. Just me. Is that enough? I laughed through my tears. It's everything.
6 months later, we got married. Not in some massive ceremony with celebrities and cameras, just us, Sarah, Christine, and a few close friends, at a small courthouse in Brooklyn. I wore a simple white dress. Alex wore a suit he'd bought from a thrift store. Our rings cost $200 total, and it was perfect. After the ceremony, we walked through the same streets where we'd walked on our first date, past the same hot dog vendor, through the same parks. Do you regret it? I asked. Everything you gave up? Alex thought about it. Really thought about it. I regret what I did to earn it in the first place, he said. But giving it up? No. That was the first completely honest thing I'd done in my entire life. And now I get to build something new. With you. Something we can be proud of. We stopped at a bench. The same bench where we'd sat on our second date. I have something for you, I said, pulling out an envelope. What is it? A job offer. Chief Operating Officer of our company, if you want it. He stared at the envelope. You want me to work for you? With me, as partners, like we always should have been. He opened it and read the offer, then started laughing. What's funny? The salary. It's $40,000 a year. Is that a problem? No,
he said, still laughing. It's just, I used to make more than that in a day. And you know what? This offer means more to me than every billion I ever had. He pulled me close and kissed me. When do I start, boss? How about Monday? Perfect. 5 years later, our company had grown into something neither of us had imagined. We had offices in 12 cities, over 200 employees. We were profitable, successful, and most importantly, completely ethical. Alex had proven himself, not as a billionaire CEO, but as a man of integrity, a man who had faced his past, accepted his consequences, and built something genuinely good. We bought a small house in Brooklyn. Nothing fancy, just enough room for us. And on a cold evening in December, as we sat on our couch planning next year's business strategy, I felt it. A flutter. Small. Unmistakable. Alex, I said quietly. Yeah? I'm pregnant. He froze, then slowly turned to look at me. We're... I nodded, crying and laughing at the same time. He pulled me into his arms and just held me. I could feel him shaking. I get to be a father, he whispered. I get to do it right. To be nothing like my father. To show this child what it means to live with integrity and honesty and love. You already know how, I said. You've been doing it for 5 years. We've been doing it. Together. Together. That word meant everything. 9 months later, we welcomed our daughter into the world. We named her Hope, because that's what our story had always been about. Hope that people can change. Hope that love can overcome anything. Hope that the sins of the father don't have to define the son. As I held her in the hospital, with Alex beside me, tears streaming down his face, I thought about everything we'd been through. The lies, the danger, the betrayal, the loss, and the love that had survived it all. Was it worth it? Alex asked, reading my mind like he always did. Everything we went through? I looked at our daughter, at the man who had given up everything to become someone worthy of love. Every single second, I said. And I meant it. Because this life we'd built together on honesty and love and second chances, this was worth more than all the billions in the world. This was real. This was us. This was everything. Epilogue. 10 years after that first night at the art gallery, I stood in front of a new painting. It was at a charity fundraiser for a program that helped formerly incarcerated people start businesses, a program our company sponsored.
The painting was by a young artist, someone we'd given a chance to, someone who reminded me of who I used to be, hopeful, broke, dreaming of something more. I felt arms wrap around me from behind. Beautiful, isn't it? Alex said. I leaned back against him. It is. But I think the artist is trying too hard, he said, echoing his words from a decade ago. Real beauty doesn't need to scream for attention. I turned to face him. He was graying at the temples now, laugh lines around his eyes, still devastatingly handsome. But more than that, he was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. Maybe both, I said, finishing our old exchange. He laughed and kissed me. Maybe both. Hope ran up to us, now 9 years old and full of fire. Mom, Dad, they're serving ice cream. Ice cream before dinner? Alex pretended to consider it. Please, please, please. He looked at me. I shrugged. Once won't hurt. Go ahead, he told Hope, but save room for real food. She ran off, and Alex pulled me close again. Thank you, he said. For what? For seeing who I could be instead of who I was. For loving me when I had nothing. For building this life with me. I smiled. Thank you for making pancakes, walking me home, and being brave enough to tell the truth, even when it cost you everything. It didn't cost me everything, he said, looking at our daughter, at the life we'd built. It gave me everything. And standing there, in a room full of art and second chances and hope, I knew he was right. We'd lost billions, but we'd found something priceless. Each other.
and that was the greatest fortune of all. Thank you for following the journey of I fell in love with a billionaire CEO, then discovered his dark secret. Sometimes the darkest secrets lead to the brightest futures. Sometimes love is worth more than all the money in the world. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is start over with nothing but the truth. This is their story, and it ends exactly where it should. With love, with hope, with a second chance.